Hello, my name is Gloria Guevara. I am the CEO from WTTC. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to join this important event, especially to talk about travel and tourism and the importance of uniting behind travel and tourism, a sector that contributes to a lot of jobs and a lot of livelihoods around the world. We are here today to share with you the global view and hopefully also to bring a perspective of the impact of travel and tourism. Thank you for having me again. Let me walk you through a presentation that we put together to share what's WTTC and what is the outcome. But before I start, I would like to thank Lindsay for introduction and also for the invitation to this important event. A little bit about history about WTTC. This council was created 30 years ago. These four CEOs had a very interesting meeting with the former Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger. And as you can see here, Bill Marriott, a hotel, of course, Crandall, an airline, American Express, and then an airline as well, had four different agendas. And this secretary basically told them, gentlemen, leave and come back with one agenda so that I can help you for the benefit of the sector. And that's why these four individuals left and decided to create the council. The council, or World Travel and Tourism Council, for 30 years has been representing the global private sector. A little bit over 200 CEOs from around the world are our members. Here you have some of the faces. And we represent all the industries, from airlines, airports, hotels, travel companies, every single member of the ecosystem, and also companies that they do business with travel and tourism, such as Google, IBM, for instance, or in the case of Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and others. Very important that for 30 years, we have been the one voice of the sector. Currently, Chris Nacetta, CEO of Hilton Worldwide, is our chairman. And we have vice chairs all over the world where these CEOs are very engaged and they define the strategy, but the most important, the priorities for travel and tourism globally. Now, for 30 years also, we have done economic impact research. 185 countries around the world, we have quantified the contribution of travel and tourism. That's how we know that travel and tourism contributes to 10% of the global GDP. These are some data numbers from last year. Last year, as you can see here, 330 million jobs around the world depending on our sector, which is 1 in 10. And as you see in that chart, while the economy grew on average, for instance, last year, 2.5%, travel and tourism grew 40% more, outpaced the growth of the economy as 3.5%. The last 9 years, travel and tourism has outpaced the growth of the economy. But the number that I would like to highlight here that I believe is the most important, when you look at all the industries and all the sectors around the world and all the jobs that they were created in the last 5 years, every single year in the last 5 years, 1 in 4 jobs were in our sector, which speaks about the opportunity and the contribution of travel and tourism. Very important to say, 54% women, 30% youth. This is a very diverse sector as well, that regardless of your level of education and regardless of your nationality, you can have an opportunity and also an opportunity to change your life and make a positive impact. Now, unfortunately, we're living an unprecedented situation, as we all know. And according to our data so far, 143 million jobs almost have been impacted, which has been devastating, as you can imagine, $3.8 trillion. And while we see some recovery in domestic, international travel has not been able to resume, and that's impacting the most. If this trend continues, that number can increase by the end of the year to 174 million jobs. Again, this is pretty sad because we're talking about livelihoods, not only jobs. We're talking about people that they don't have food to put on their table, that they don't have to support their children, that they depend on this sector as the main livelihood. And this has been a devastating impact, as I say before. Now, at WTTC, we not only look at data and the economic impact of travel and tourism, we have also analyzed situations in the past because every single crisis impacts our sector. From weather-related, security, outbreak, political instability, you name it, all of them have impacted travel and tourism in the last 20 years. So since we remember, so we look at the last 20 years and analyze 90 different situations, divided those in 4. And as you can see here, political instability, when we launched this report last year, was the number one with the greatest impact, 10 months minimum to recover, and almost 22 months average, which is pretty sad. But the second worst, unfortunately, was the outbreaks. We have 10 months also minimum, and 19 months as the average to recover from different outbreaks that we have seen in the past. Now, when we also look at this report, we learned 3 lessons that they are very important to share with all of you and understand as we're weathering the storm and going through this COVID-19 pandemic around the world. One of the lessons is that when we work together, like in the financial crisis, we recovered faster. Public and private collaboration and international collaboration was key to recover pretty fast. Another lesson learned was 9/11. We didn't work ideally together, unfortunately, public and private. And within countries, every country implemented their own, for instance, screening and safety protocols. And that's why even before COVID, when you were traveling around the world in the airports, they had different processes and in some places different requirements. And those different protocols and the fact that we didn't work ideally together took us longer to rebuild the trust from the traveler. And that's what it took us 3 to 4 years to recover. The other lesson learned is when we had SARS, MERS, Ebola outbreaks, despite that we didn't have a vaccine, we were able to recover. And why was that? Because we isolated the people infected. This is very important. Now, I know that COVID, you're going to tell me that we have a lot of asymptomatics. Yes, but if we do testing, we can isolate those as well, which is crucial for the recovery. Let me show you some charts that prove what I'm trying to tell you. If you look on the left top chart, that is the world. The white line is the economy of the world. The green line is travel and tourism GDP. The blue bars are jobs. Look at the 2 situations where our sector was heavily impacted and the economy as well. As I said before, the first one on the left is 9/11. It's a U-shaped recovery. It took us years, exactly because what I say, the lack of standard protocols and the lack of international collaboration. Look at the right one. That was financial crisis. We recovered in 18 months. Unbelievable, because we had an unprecedented coordination, which was crucial to the recovery of the global economy and also the sectors. That was pretty good. Now look at the top right. That's the G20 countries. So whatever happens in the G20 countries has an impact in the world. As you will see, the charts are pretty similar. Now, if you look at the bottom right, that is China when they had the outbreak of SARS. Despite that there was not a vaccine, you will see there that they recovered pretty fast. Yes, they had a huge deep impact, but they were able to recover pretty fast because they were able, again, to isolate the people infected. That's why we at WTTC, after learning from the past, learning from each other, and learning from all these experiences as we engage with 150 countries around the world, pretty frequent, we have been spending a lot of times working with those governments in trying to help our members to survive, to weather the storm. Yes, because all these big companies are important, but let's remember that 80% are SMEs as well. And a lot of the SMEs, those SMEs are owned by women again, and for people around the world that depend on travel and tourism. So very important for governments to continue working with us and helping us with the furlough schemes for the workers, for instance, and also liquidity so that we don't have to close as many businesses as we have seen, unfortunately, around the world. Now, 4 principles for the recovery we have established. WTTC, at the beginning of the outbreak, as I say, we have been spending all the time and all the efforts tirelessly working to weather the storm and helping the sector to survive, to make sure that we had the liquidity and the support for the workers and whatever was needed. Now our efforts are concentrated on the recovery. And in order for us to recover and bring back these millions of livelihoods and jobs from around the world, as I say, these 4 points are very important. The first one is an international coordinated approach is crucial. Yes, we have seen some recovery domestic of travel, but international is far from where it needs to be. But in order to be back, we need to have a coordinated effort. Countries have to talk to each other, and they have to work with the private sector whenever they decide to reopen borders, and we need to do that in a consistent and safe way and remove travel barriers such as the quarantines and replace those for the right processes like testing, for instance. The second point has to do with the before and after the vaccine. There are 2 phases here. We cannot afford, we cannot wait until we have a vaccine. We need to learn to, yes, contain the spread because the safety and the health is paramount, but also at the same time to learn to coexist with this virus and try to reduce as much as possible the spread. At the same time, that can be done. It's not a some zero game or a binary solution. We can do both. There's a lot of evidence around the world that that is happening in many countries. So before the vaccine, we need to do testing before you travel. If we can do a rapid test before you board a plane, that will give you the results in 10 minutes, and all the negatives will be allowed to board and the positives will put in quarantine, I think that will bring you more confidence. And at the same time, we're going to be able to isolate the infected people as we have done it in the past. And at the same time, use the apps for contact tracing so that you know exactly where have you been and get your certificate of your test in your phone. Now, after the vaccine, there will be, of course, a transition where once you have a vaccine, a different protocol will be implemented for you. Very important to look at the entire travel experience and include the component of testing, as I said before. The third one has to do with the protocols. We needed to make sure that we learn from 9/11, and that's what we at WTTC say, let's have the same protocol so that the traveler can have exactly the same experience in a hotel in London, New York, Madrid, or Lima, or whatever it is the country or city around the world. These protocols, they have to be standard. And that's why we took the initiative to come up with those protocols. And the fourth, but not the less important, which is equally important, is that we need to continue with the support from the governments, because people are being impacted, jobs are being lost, and the recovery is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time, and that's why we need to work together. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the protocols. The protocols, for instance, for hospitality. Our hotels offer rooms to doctors and nurses in London, Madrid, Milan, and New York, as an example. And we were able to maintain those installations COVID-free. Imagine those doctors taking care all day of COVID patients and coming back to the hotel. That's an important task to do, and you need to have very clear protocols for safety. At the same time, we work with WHO, with CDC, and all the health experts, and we came up with the protocols for hospitality. Same situation with the input from all the members. We came with the protocols for congress and conventions, tour operators, travel agencies, theme parks, and of course, we work with ICAO, IATA, and ACI for the protocols for the airports and the airlines. The point here is that they need to be a standard, consistent, so that you don't have different protocols around the world. Why is that? As I said before, in the case of 9/11, you will remember that we had different protocols. And even 19 years later, as I said before COVID, in some airports, they ask you to remove your shoes. In some airports, don't. And that at the beginning created a lot of confusion. And that's why it took us longer to reveal trust from the traveler. Now, we are proposing those protocols with the highest level of a standard that came from the private sector. And we're working very close with the governments to adopt the same. And that's why we announced a stamp. That stamp, which is called Safe Travel, is helping the travelers to identify who has implemented these protocols, the protocols at the highest standard of the global private sector. And we are recognizing the destinations that they have received this stamp. So far, 193 destinations or countries around the world have received this stamp. Very important to clarify, this is not a certification. It is only a recognition for you when you travel. If you see this stamp, you will know that they have implemented these protocols, and they use the knowledge that I shared before from the hotels, from the airlines, from everyone, in order to rebuild trust and let you know that we're going to do as much as possible to reduce the risk so that you don't have a possibility to get COVID in those premises, which is very important. And these destinations, as I say, they have harmonized the protocols and they are at the highest level. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about the recovery. As I say before, the G20 collaboration is crucial because that platform helped us in the financial crisis to recover in 18 months. Now, can we use that platform? Absolutely. This year, under the leadership and the presidency of Saudi Arabia, for the first time ever, we were invited to participate, 45 CEOs, in an event that made history on October 7. WTTC has always participated in the G20 for travel and tourism, but this is the first time that we had some of our CEOs and other CEOs. 45 CEOs attended, and per request from Saudi Arabia, who's the presidency, as I say, we presented a plan to recover 100 million jobs with 12 specific actions that the private sector is acting or executing, or commitments, and 12 points that we needed the governments to help us, the governments of the G20. And in this meeting, we had a lot of support from the governments. The points that basically are in our website, you can download the plan in wttc.org. But to give you a summary, they are centered in the resume of international travel. We need to bring back international travel. It needs to be in a coordinated way, and we need to replace the quarantines for testing. The travelers want certainty. If you don't have certainty, you're not going to travel. And we can travel in a safe and responsible way, at the same time containing the spread. We have done that already, and several countries are doing that. And that's why at the G20 we made history, and we're making a lot of progress with a lot of governments, including, of course, the UK, the French government, Germany, US, and many others. Now, very crucial also, the coordination within travel and tourism. Travel and tourism is very easy to say, but we have multiple industries, multiple players. And one thing that WTTC has been doing is that we work with all of them. Weekly, we talk to all of them. From IATA, that represents the airlines, CLIA, that represents the cruises, ACI, the airports. And as you have here, some of the logos, Duty Free, World Economic Forum, that we work very closely with them, ETC, USA Travel, OECD, UNWTO, and PATA, of course, for Asia Pacific. So all of them are part of a task force where we work with them very closely, because we believe that this is a matter of collaboration and working together. And we will continue doing that to bring back the jobs impacted. Now, very important also is that we need to spend time communicating the truth, the facts, the situation. IATA released a report recently. I don't know if you have seen it. This year, so far, 1.2 billion people have flown, 1.2 billion. And we have seen only 44 cases of COVID. It's very interesting, because these, unfortunately, even that they were not proven to get COVID in the plane, let's say that they had COVID at some point after the trip, and we tracked that back. But we're talking about before the protocols were implemented, before you had to wear the mask, before the things that have been implemented. But even that is 1 in 27 million people. That was the possibility from the 1.2 billion of the 44 cases. At the same time, it's very important for you to know that the air of the plane is purified every 3 minutes. They have this sophisticated system where the air is purified very frequent. And as a matter of fact, according to aviation experts and other experts as well, the air in the plane is similar to the air in an operational room, which speaks about the possibility of getting COVID is none, basically. But on top of that, you have to follow the protocols. I had the opportunity to fly recently a long haul between Europe and America, and it was okay. Wearing the mask, following the protocols, they give you sanitizer, and all of that is key. So it is very important. I think we're having a lot of challenges, but there are also a lot of opportunities. And we need to think about the people that are being impacted, the livelihoods, because travel and tourism is not only one more number, it's not only the economic benefits that we see in nations, the fact that we divide the income from developed to developing, perhaps, the fact that this is the only economic activity that in many poor nations would allow them to survive and to provide opportunities to the citizens. Travel and tourism also brings you opportunities in terms of employment, regardless of the education. You can have an MBA or a PhD that you will find a job in travel and tourism, or you can have no education, basic high school, for instance, and then you'll have an opportunity. The mobility that you see in our sector is also very important. So we need to make sure that we work together to bring back those jobs, those lives, so that we can recover faster. We have always recovered, always. This is one of the most resilient sectors in the world. It's just a matter of time. And it's a matter of how we work with the governments, how do we have that international coordination. And once is the right time, that you can help us and you travel again. Because let me tell you, every time that you travel, you make an impact. The social impact for travel and tourism is unprecedented. It has helped us to reduce poverty, to increase education, to give opportunity to a lot of girls around the world, the youth, and a lot of people that they didn't have another option. Thank you again for allowing me to be part of this very important event. Let me share with you just a little video about the social impact that travel and tourism has. Hopefully you like it. And hopefully next time that you travel, you will think about the positive impact you're making in the world. Thank you again.
What does travel mean to you? Exploring the world? Creating memories? Meeting new people? Disconnecting from it all? But what about making a difference? Because our travels mean so much more than we realize. And those memories we've created together in travel, they're even better than we thought. Remember that restaurant where you'd never felt so full? Know that when you paid your bill, you helped feed your waiter's family of 4. And that time you stared open-mouthed at that incredible dance, you maintained jobs that keep important cultures and traditions alive. Travel is not just life-changing. Travel is world-changing too. That photo you took on safari, the one that hit new levels of likes, your trip supported the tireless fight against the illegal wildlife trade. Remember that spontaneous city break? It helped maintain schools in the local area. And your tour guide, the one who made you laugh so much, she is one of millions of women employed in a sector leading in gender equality. Remember how you made a difference when you traveled? Remember how much your travels meant to others. Now, just think of all the good you can do in the future. Travel the world. Make a world of difference.